G'day everybody, Daniel and Matt here again from GI Energy. Today we're talking about the top 10 things to consider before you buy a solar battery in 2025. So we're going to run through the list real quick and then go into a little bit more detail. Number 1, understanding your load at home. Number 2, understanding your existing solar setup if you have one. Number 3, thinking ahead to how you might use energy in the future and not just today. Number 4, understanding your tariffs and understanding VPPs and what that means. Number 5, size it correctly. Make sure the battery is suitable, considering all the things above. Number 6, make sure that you design your backup properly for the case of power cuts. Number 7, don't be cheap. This is an important one. We're seeing a lot of that at the moment. Number 8, don't forget about the solar panels that you're choosing to go with your battery if you're putting new panels on, and an inverter. Number 9, choose a suitable location for the battery. And then number 10, do your due diligence on everything really thoroughly. So Matt, just going back to number 1 there, understanding your load, what does that mean to general consumers?
Well, everyone uses power differently in different amounts, obviously with different appliances at different times, to put simply. So your next door neighbour may use half or double the power that you may, depending on if you've got gas for cooking, hot water, heating or cooling. Whatever else you have in your home, an electric vehicle, swimming pool, the list is pretty much endless and open there, but obviously everyone uses power differently. So speak to someone that can help you and guide you through that, to run through what you have, when that power is used and how it's used, to then obviously say, okay, we've got a 50-50 split day and night, or no one's home during daylight hours at all, so maybe even 70% is at night. And then maybe seasonally as well, things differ. So properly looking at exactly what you have in the home, how it's used and when it's used, and making sure that you're covering that off.
Yeah, definitely. It's really important, isn't it, to get that right?
Yeah.
If your consultant or whoever it is, your installer that you're speaking to, isn't asking you about that stuff before doing a proposal for you, then they can't possibly be getting it right straight from the offset. Which brings us up to the next one. If you've got an existing system installed, you really need to know how that's behaving in terms of how much you're exporting, how much you're still importing from the grid, all that sort of stuff as well.
Yeah, probably half of the inquiries we've had over the past couple of months have had some form of existing solar.
Yeah.
Could be as little as a few months old in some cases to 15 years old. So how that's operating, if there's a warranty on the system, how it was installed, where the panels are located, that there's so many variables there. Yeah. So any client that comes to us with an existing system, that even ones that we installed, because things may have changed over time, we really want to understand what's in place, how it's working, if there's some monitoring. If it's a really old system, there may not be, but there might be a screen on the inverter, what the feed-in amount is, so how much is going back to the grid, and obviously how much is being purchased from the grid, so that we can say, okay, we could put X amount of storage on this, or okay, you might actually need some more panels, and properly take a look at it, because there's some great systems that are installed, and where it's working well, and it's obviously allows maybe a battery to be installed alongside it possibly. We don't want to be taking off great systems, but also, like, to that extent, there's somewhere the needs in the home have just changed so quickly. Yeah. So again, just that real understanding of what you've got in place.
Yeah. At the very least, you look at a few power bills and see what the export is and the import is. But obviously, preferably, you'd get access to the online monitoring, so you can see exactly what the consumption profile and the solar production existing profile looks like. So the more data you can get, the better.
Yeah,
really.
For sure. Absolutely.
Thinking ahead is number 3. So trying to plan not just for today, but for existing stuff that you might add into the home in terms of more power consumption in the future is also an important one.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, obviously, easy one, like if it's a growing family, or maybe at the other end of the scale, it's you've other people moving out of the home. But yeah, aircon. A lot of people moving to electrification anyway, switching away from gas for heating, hot water, cooking, maybe even. And EVs is generally the one that we're talking to a lot of people about. So if you're able to prepare the system now with that in mind, if you do have an idea of some of those things, hopefully it just means this is done once correctly. Obviously the subsidy's only available this first go. So if you're in a position where budget allows you to go that bit bigger with a bit of headroom, ideal. And obviously then if you have enough solar as well to ensure you can fill it over time, then perfect.
Yeah, can work both ways as well. You might have someone that says, look, this is my power consumption at the moment, but in the next couple of years, both my kids are going to move out, for example, then you might even undersize it a little bit because it's a long-term investment, obviously. So just a consideration both ways, whether you're going to use more or less power. But as you said, EVs, electric vehicles, they're the big one for most people are even considering, or maybe in the next 4 or 5 years for their next car. Understanding your current tariffs that you're on, so understanding where you're spending money at the moment, what your export feed-in rate is, and then understanding the basics around virtual power plants. Virtual power plants is obviously important as well. Let's explain a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so a lot of people may just have a single general tariff that they pay a set rate, 30 cents, 40 cents a kilowatt hour. Some may have a controlled load, an off-peak tariff, depending on the area and what it's called.
Yeah.
A lot of people have been moved onto time of use tariffs as well. And obviously this video, we've had people from all over the country in different areas that may have that. So just to, again, then I guess size the system according to how those tariffs work in some cases. But if you have a controlled load, solar and battery will generally only feed the general tariff, tariff 11 or whatever it's called in different areas. So you may remove the controlled load to actually utilize the consumption of that hot water system or whatever it may be through your solar, because obviously then it's, where possible, completely free. Or if you've got a battery, obviously could supplement. So yeah, just to make sure we're looking at the appropriate tariffs and even the costings on those tariffs as well. And the VPP part is something that's really come to the forefront in the past few months, is obviously some of the common ones a lot of people are aware of. So if you are looking to participate in a virtual power plant that may be beneficial financially firstly, but also supplement the charging of the battery or your charging of your car, whatever else that there could be there. So just to be aware of obviously what VPPs are available and may be suitable for your situation. When we understand the house load and what you have there, then we can make a really good suggestion for, okay, you're better off with X or Y, and this is how it will work. So just to get a full understanding of obviously current situation and also ideal situation.
Yeah, no, I think that covers it. I think VPPs, if you want to know a little bit more, we're actually going to do a video just explaining what they mean as well, which will be out within a week of this one. So if you're not familiar with what a VPP is, keep an eye out for that one. It's going to be a pretty short explainer, so that might be helpful there. You touched on it just before. Number 5 was sizing the battery correctly. So now you know what your load is, what your existing setup is, what your energy use may or may not be in the future, and you've looked at that. You now understand your tariffs and your VPPs. Size it correctly. You only get one go at the rebate, so if you do upgrade your battery later, you're obviously not going to get subsidised on the second install. So this one's an important one as well. Yeah,
it is. I mean, you pretty much covered off all the points that are accurate for it there. But yeah, obviously we get such a mix of inquiries where it's like, oh, I just want the smallest battery, or I want the largest possible battery, and the two clients may have similar usage, but they've got a completely different idea of what they want to do with the battery. Obviously, if it's for backup, which is something separate again. But again, one shot at the subsidy. Yes, a lot of the systems are modular and can be increased, but obviously it just costs a fair bit more because the subsidy isn't there, and you'd have a second installation as well. So where possible, if you can give yourself a bit of breathing room and size it correctly, then you're going to have a much smoother transition over many, many years.
Yeah, it's also sizing not just the kilowatt hours of your battery correctly, but the charge and discharge capacity. We've seen so many quotes for big batteries, single phase homes, with only a 5 kilowatt inverter allowance to keep the cost down. You're just never going to charge and discharge your battery. You're literally paying for something you will not use. It's but obviously to a general consumer, that's probably not an easy thing to understand. You just see, wow, this is a big battery and it's so cheap. Let's install it, and then 6 months down the track, you've only ever topped it up to halfway. So sizing your inverter properly and being able to charge and discharge the battery effectively is equally or more important than the actual kilowatt hour size of your storage.
100%.
The next one is your backup power. So in the event of a power cut, what do you want from your backup? You speak to customers a lot about that, don't you?
Yeah, I do. It's something I've thought about for years, because I think it's a question a lot of people don't ask, or maybe the client doesn't fully understand what a system can do. Because speaking to a neighbour a week ago, who's like, oh, if you've got a battery, you must have backup power.
Yeah, a lot of people think that.
It can be a completely different part of the installation, and it is a different part of the installation. So you really need to let us know, or the person you're speaking to know, okay, am I happy just with some lights, power point for my fridge, kettle, whatever it is you need, or do you want full backup? So internet, is obviously one a lot of people talk about now, especially I know in my house with a couple of young kids, if there's no internet, and just for me as well, I'll be pretty upset.
You'd be more stressed than them after an hour.
I would be. But then, even aircon, people are asking about aircon. Hot water as well in some areas. And this conversation may differ sort of metro to moving more rural as well. And obviously the backup capabilities of each battery can be very different, single or three phase, size of the battery, size of the inverter. So again, speak to someone that really knows what they're doing here, and that's something we've learned over the years as well, like firsthand, importantly. So
it's not all created equal. Backup, we've touched on that on lots of different videos. So batteries are very, very different in the way they behave. With single and three phase, there's some limitations with some products. We won't go into that now, obviously, because we'd be here all day. But just as you said, speak to someone who knows what they're doing, because similar to the inverter capacity, we see so many. I had a guy recently who. All he wanted was, his main motivation was really good backup power, and what he'd been quoted wasn't going to do anything like what he wanted it to do. So he would have installed that and been really, really let down. So it's a big one.
It is, for sure.
The next one was don't be cheap. We've been a bit cheeky there with how we've titled that, but I've done a lot of work with solar here in Australia, obviously predominantly, but I know guys in England that do solar, and I've helped them out with some things over the years, and New Zealand as well, and also in the US. We'd worked with a guy there in California for a while, and the reason I'm mentioning that is the return on investment here buying a good quality solar system is honestly phenomenal compared to any of those places. The prices you pay in the States blows my mind. The return on investment in England due to the weather mostly is shocking. Even in New Zealand there's no subsidies there, the weather's not as good. You know, if you can get an 8 or 9 year return on investment there for a solar only, that's really good. But unfortunately here in Australia, what's happening, what has always happened since the early days of rebates coming into play, is the focus from a lot of solar companies is just how can we be cheaper? Because it's really easy to throw up an ad for X amount of price, and then the next guy sees that ad and chops a few dollars off, and then their management meetings just become around how can we cut corners and be cheaper, and that causes problems, and that has created a culture in this industry of driving cost down and driving margin down, and you don't need to do it. I'm not saying go and spend more than you need to, but do it really well, I guess, and that's why we said don't be cheap. You don't need to. Go and buy good products, get them installed by a really good installer, and it will last as long as it's meant to then. Sure. Anything to add there?
You've pretty much summed up really well, and as you said when you were mentioning the 10 points, it's obviously probably the one that might be a little bit on the borderline of how people perceive it or receive it. But I think it's more just because you see those ads on social media. Once you speak to one person about solar, or you Google a product, it's just going to be filling your feed with adverts.
That algorithm.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, and a neighbour of mine, a couple of days ago, was like, "Oh, there's a door knock around the other day," and it was a day I was in the office, and he was like, "Oh, I've heard of this no-name brand," which I genuinely hadn't heard of.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, you see all these ones come and go anyway, but you know the main ones. As a lot of people watching would.
Yeah.
And he was like, "Oh, what's this one like?" Because it was $7,000 for 40 kilowatt hours.
Right.
And I was like, that's probably less than a third of what quality products would cost of, again, the known brands.
Yeah.
And he was just like, he was just bewildered that was possible. And I said, well, it probably isn't possible.
Yeah.
However, have you found anything about it online? And he couldn't find anything about the company. The ABN had been created in May 2025, so
just as
around the election. And the installer was, I believe, approved, but didn't have a separate certification or something. He couldn't find that information, basically.
Right,
the standard things you'd expect.
Yeah.
So the don't be cheap part is more just get a quality product. The subsidies around once, all the forums and everything else are obviously full of, oh, what's this one like? What's this one like? This deal's got to be great because the price is lower.
Yeah.
But it's not. It's like anything we buy. There's always going to be a pitfall there.
Yeah.
If you, as you said, if you get a quality system installed really well, it'll last as long as it's supposed to last.
Yeah.
And nowadays that should be 15, 20 years.
Yeah.
And it's done. And you don't have to do anything else. So don't be cheap.
Yeah, pretty much. Do yourself a favour.
Yeah.
You know, we're not saying go and spend more than you need to, because you don't want to overpay for stuff. But don't be caught out by that trap. Don't forget about the panels and the inverter. What we've noticed is all of the people that we were speaking to prior to this rebate were focused on what type of panel are you installing, what type of inverter are you installing, going into the detail. People just don't ask that at the moment. It's all just battery, but those are still really important things if you haven't already got your solar system installed. So yeah, don't forget about those parts.
The panels definitely fallen to the back of the queue for sure. And even I've seen some panel manufacturers almost saying that in a different way. They've been quite creative to say, ensure your solar array is large enough to fill the battery you're going to install.
Yep.
As part of the subsidy agreement, we need to obviously provide a system that you can fill, or a way of doing so. So every part of the system has some importance there, and I still believe the installer that does the work for you is still the single most important part, because that's the person you call if there's an issue. Obviously now it's sort of the battery is the next point, and inverter with a lot of these is the battery inverter all in one a lot of the time now, or it's the same, even if it's not an all in one unit, it's the inverter and the battery.
Same brand,
same brand. But the panels still play a really important part, because if your panels don't work, how are you going to fill the battery? You've bought and installed a 30-40 kilowatt hour battery because this subsidy's made it affordable. Make sure you've got a good panel there. And I guess it revisits the earlier point about the current equipment. And then how do you potentially merge that into the new installation? And there's a lot of conversations about bringing the system up to standard. And I've seen some posts online where an end user was like, how dare the installer say my system's not up to standard? And what the installer meant was Australian standards. Not the actual quality of the job or perceived standards of that installer. It was just, well, that was installed in 2018. Australian standards have changed. You've got rooftop isolators. You want the inverter removed and a new inverter installed in its place with DC in with your existing panels. That installer is then liable for that. I need to bring that system up to scratch, up to new standards. Which is a good thing, because then it's safe and it's warranted again. So all those things, there's not a dig at an existing system that's in place, but you really need to know that information, because if we, and many jobs we're doing, we're replacing even inverters we installed 10 years ago, or not even 5 years ago, with a new system, and we've got to potentially redesign the system sometimes. So every part of it will play really important part.
100%. I think what some people are doing also, again, just because it's so cost focused, is advertising a reasonable quality battery, and then just using the cheapest possible panel, the cheapest possible racking, and the cheapest possible person to install. So as you said, all of those things are important. Check them all. The location was the next one, choosing a suitable location. We're not going to talk about all the different standards here, because we could be here all day again, but basically trying to find a good spot for your battery is really important.
Yeah, for sure. Obviously, out of the sun, accessible, obviously meets regulations is pretty standard. And with certain batteries, maybe you're looking to incorporate a car charger with it. So that'll also play a role. So it's, without banging on and talking for 20 minutes about what's suitable and what isn't, it's more just discussing it with someone that knows, to find a safe and appropriate location that doesn't weather the battery in any way, essentially.
We always try and put them indoors, don't we, basically, if we can, in the garage. If you can't, you want them, as you said, as out of the elements as possible, not in direct sunlight, of course. And just having that conversation early on. A lot of people don't realise you need a bollard in the garage if it's going inside the garage, which doesn't have to necessarily take up too much more depth if you install it correctly, but it's a consideration and something that you should be having that conversation pretty early, I think.
And we've got plenty going in outside as well, where that's just what's presented on the job, or they don't want it in the garage. It's a single car garage. This is where I park, do this, and as long as we can find a spot that's, in a reasonable location there, or you provide some form of cover or something for it, and at least it's addressed initially, then it's not going to be to the detriment of the system in a couple of years, or whatever it might be. So.
The last one is just doing your due diligence properly. So we've spoken about making sure that you're choosing the right battery, the right panel, the right inverter, the right installer. Don't just take people's word for it, ours included. We encourage our own customers to go and look at our ABN, look at our insurances, look at our reviews, speak to other customers if you want to. Doing your due diligence is really important, for even more so for batteries, I would say, than it is for solar panels, because you've obviously got the there's more stuff happening there in terms of technology that can go wrong. You really need to do your homework. You're spending a fairly large amount of money here in what's probably going to be the largest electrical upgrade you do in your home. Do you take your time? Do your due diligence properly?
100%. Yeah, not really too much more to add there. I think a lot of the other points loop into that anyway.
Yeah.
And if you get the right person that's doing it and you've looked them up, and look at the bad reviews and look at the response and obviously what's occurred there, because nobody's perfect. Things happen.
Yeah.
And there's going to be a lot more things happen with this subsidy because the industry's just gone from how it was really quiet to exponentially grown overnight.
Yeah.
So it's it's going to be a great time, but it's also going to be a bit of a scary time, I think. So definitely look into this properly.
100%. So those are things that we think you should really consider. All of that being said, now is a great time to buy a battery.
Oh yeah.
Obviously heavily subsidised. The emergence of these great VPPs. Your payback period's phenomenal here in Australia. So do your homework and reach out to us if you've got any other questions.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thanks.